What's up, guys, and welcome back to Amateur Radio 101.2, where we're going over everything you need to know for your technician radio license exam. This lesson will go over FCC rules and regulations. The FCC regulates and enforces the rules of amateur radio service in the U.S., and the basis and purpose of amateur radio service is advancing the skills in the technical and communication phases of the radio art. For station identification, it is encouraged by the FCC to use the phonetic alphabet, although it's not required. The phonetic alphabet is Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta Echo Foxtrot Golf Hotel India Juliet Kilo Lima Mike November Oscar Papa Quebec Romeo Sierra Tango Uniform Victor Whiskey X-Ray Yankee Zulu. A person can hold only one operator primary station license grant. Proof of an amateur radio license is when the license appears in the FCC ULS database. ULS stands for Universal Licensing System. To make an account, you need to go into CORS, which can be found at this website, apps.fcc.gov.cors, userlogin.do. CORS stands for Commission Registration System. FCC Part 97 is a part of legislation that governs amateur radio. What is a beacon? A beacon is an amateur station transmitting communication for the purpose of observing, propagation, or related experimental activities. The FCC Part 97 definition of a space station is an amateur station located more than 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface. So here we have our Earth, and there's our space station, and it's greater than 50 kilometers from the Earth's surface. When it comes to transmitting on your radio, you need to look up local frequency designations. Volunteer frequency coordinators recognized by local amateurs will recommend transmit-receive channels and other parameters for auxiliary and repeater stations. Amateur operators in local or regional areas whose stations are eligible to be repeaters or auxiliary stations are those who select a frequency coordinator. The Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, or RACES, is a radio service using amateur frequencies and stations for emergency management or civil defense communications. It also uses amateur radio operators certified by a civil defense organization as being enrolled in that organization. The last thing you need to know for this lesson is willful interference of other amateur radio stations is never permitted. Alright, now it's time to test what you've learned. Here are the exam questions. Which of the following is part of the basis and purpose of the amateur radio service? It is advancing the skills in the technical and communication phases of the radio art. Which agency regulates and enforces the rules for the amateur radio service in the United States? That would be the FCC. What do the FCC rules state regarding the use of the phonetic alphabet for station identification in amateur radio service? It is encouraged. How many operator primary station license grants may be held by any one person? The answer is 1. What proves that the FCC has issued an operator primary license grant? The license appears in the FCC ULS database. What is the FCC Part 97 definition of a beacon? An amateur station transmitting communications for the purposes of observing, propagation, or related experimental activities. What is the FCC Part 97 definition of a space station? An amateur station located more than 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface. Which of the following entities recommends transmit-receive channels and other parameters for auxiliary and repeater stations? Volunteer frequency coordinator recognized by local amateurs. Now, who selects a frequency coordinator? Amateur operators in a local or regional area whose stations are eligible to be repeaters or auxiliary stations. What is the Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Service, or RACES? RACES is a radio service using amateur frequencies and stations for emergency management or civil defense communications. It's an emergency service using amateur operators certified by a civil defense organization as being enrolled in that organization. When is willful interference of other amateur radio stations permitted? The answer is at no time. Alright guys, thanks for watching. This was probably not the most interesting lesson, but they definitely do get more interesting from here, so stay tuned for 101 Part 3, where we're going to dive into some more exciting topics. Thanks for watching.